Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the finale of Eurowatch. There's been quite a few people who've joined us on this journey, so if you aren't aware, me and my wonderful host Ritwik, say hello.
I'm only being forced to say hello because I've been tied up in Alex's basement, but hello.
I'm going to cut that to just say hello. And we started a podcast on Euro 2020 in 2020. When it should have taken place. But we stuck to it every couple of weeks, every week or so. We got up to over 20 episodes, and here is the final one. We've given our pre-thoughts throughout this series. We've got into the tournament and given our concurrent thoughts, and now this is the final one where we get to give our overall thoughts, what we thought would happen, how it actually panned out, what we learned from it. It's going to be... It's much more of a chilled chat one, isn't it, really? I'm looking forward to see how discordant our thoughts pre-tournament were with what happened.
Well, I've got my can of lager at 12:14 p.m. out for this one. It's we're on episode 23. We've actually gone through a full TV show style season. Alex and I are, or at least I'm drinking over the lack of our Emmy nomination. I don't know about all the other shows, but we've had a lot of drama. We've had a lot of humble pie. We've had a lot of twists and turns here on Eurowatch. And it's been quite a tournament, as Alex alluded to. We started this in 2020 in all earnest to give you, the listeners, a much more thorough, non-biased take on the European game. We had some guests on to provide some color. Alex and I were providing that ourselves as well in the absence. And it's been a great tournament. It's a tournament I was surprised by. In no short order. It's been great. It's been fun. Owen Goals was a top scorer, so watch out for him next season. But Alex, we had a lot of hot takes. We had a lot of predictions. But you want to maybe start off with a few of the things you got bang on the money or close to there.
Maybe I was going to say Serge. Okay. All right. So I'll start off with one thing that I think I did quite well on, which I'll be honest weren't many looking at it, but I think I nailed it with Ukraine. It was quite late on actually. In about March and February time, I started to say that Ukraine were going to be a team to watch under Andrei Shevchenko. They'd had a lot of good things going together. And they were all right, Ritwik, weren't they? I mean, I know they lost to Austria in their group, but against the Netherlands, against North Macedonia, against Sweden, they battled well. England, they fell apart a bit, but I think
Ukraine was good.
What were your thoughts on it?
I actually, my best friend in San Francisco is Ukrainian, and I remember watching the match against the Dutch with him. And it was just the two of us supporting Ukraine, and we were flooded by a sea of orange. I swear, it was like someone opened a bottle of Fanta in the bar. It was wall to wall. And I remember,
San Francisco sounds like a place where Dutch people would go. I feel like that must be like a place where
you would think
politics
so,
and
but
things
no, there were fans from most countries that used to flock the bars. I unfortunately went to some of the busiest sports bars that SF has to offer. With that notwithstanding, I remember just both of us screaming when Ukraine scored and the deaf silence around us. It was magical, and I think this was a chastising experience for Ukraine, especially for Alexander Zinchenko, who I think we can both say didn't have the tournament he would have wanted to have, but he's still a young gun. He's a great player. And I think under Shevchenko, Ukraine will be a much better unit than this tournament would suggest. Yeah.
The previous... Yeah. I think they've earned a lot of respect, and it's. I think this is their best ever finish, joint best finish ever in a major international tournament, I believe, because the other one was the 2006 World Cup, but they also reached the quarterfinal, which Shevchenko was a part of. So it's been a great. It's a great year for them, and I can't wait to see what else they do. Fun fact: Ukraine football's doing quite well. They've Shakhtar just brought in Roberto De Zerbi from Sassuolo and brought in like Pedrinho and Lassina Traore. They've spent money, but Separate topic, that is.
Well,
Ritwik,
it's not
what
so much a
prediction did you
prediction
get right?
as like the first thoughts I had after seeing them play, especially in that 4-0 win against Turkey. I'd emphatically told Alex, I don't see anyone beating Italy. And that was just after one game. It was a very, very off the cuff, suggestion. And there were indications, especially against Spain and in their round of 16 tie, that, people can make it hard for Italy. But as a unit, I mean, they were amazing. Both of us have one of the things Alex and I jointly got right is how strong Italy would be. I mean, we tracked them, throughout their undefeated run in the qualifiers, and even given to the final, everybody was talking about England. Everyone was talking about how far they've made it. I would even argue that Italy's story is far, far greater in payoff because Italy didn't even get to reach the last World Cup. They were so bad, and it was at the point where like Bonucci and Chiellini were also, at the ends of their at the career, and both of them were going to retire along with Gigi Buffon. But Mancini came in and said, and Mancini himself was not having a good club run. Let's be very honest about that. After leaving Man City, he had spells at Inter and at Gala, and he did not do well at either of them. And it was a roll of the dice for Italy to appoint him. But he came in, no pretense, no nothing. Him and Viale, at the scene of their heart-wrenching first UEFA Champions League final loss with Sassuolo, came back, made a team, gave everybody a minute to shine. Even Salvatore Sirigu, who got a couple of minutes out of the final group stage game. And he built this team. The midfield, the attack, from unfashioned clubs like Sassuolo, like Calabria. It was not just filled wall to wall with Milan's and Juventus players. And it was just, it was fantastic to see. It was fantastic to see how no one was bigger than the team, how everybody pitched in, how even Emerson took upon, the role left by prospective player of the tournament, Spinazzola. And he came in and he really just stuck his claim for like the two most crucial games, the semi-final and the final. A lot of inferences can be made as to, England were the better team for, some spells or not. But I think the team that deserved to win it did win it at the end, but only just. But Italy. Yeah. Italy was one of my predictions, and I'm glad I got that one right.
Yeah, agreed. I think we might be the earliest people in Europe to say Italy would beat Belgium in the quarterfinals of Euro 2021 because we saw that coming in November, December, right in the first couple episodes, and I instantly said I don't think Belgium will do well, and I think we'll get on to Belgium. But since you mentioned them just now in the final, England, I think I got that. I can't actually remember so much of what you said, but for the whole pre-tournament, I slammed Southgate from episode 1. There was joke, even if the episode was about England, there was a Southgate joke in there, and it's fairly just worthy. But I think it was because he was playing tournament football in friendlies, which is incredibly boring, but it paid off really well. And I don't care what anyone says. Southgate, after the final, England heart-wrenchingly lost, and he did make mistakes in the final, but he got them there. And he showed that he learned after the semi-final. I think the whole tournament was brilliant. And you alluded to that. I think first half against Italy, I know it's just the first half.
That was the best England I've seen in so long. I think going back to Euro 2004, I haven't seen England going to dominate the game for that 30 minutes. I believe England could beat anybody, and I was just waiting for that shoe to drop. I was just waiting for that second goal, and it didn't come, and it cost them.
Even what really struck me was the body language. Even the national anthem, people like Harry Maguire, they looked so focused and determined. It gave me a big feeling. I wasn't actually too surprised when England scored straight away. But yeah, fair enough to Southgate. I think I said they would fail the quarterfinal. The one that I did get right, I think you said round of 16, but I might be putting words in your mouth. I know I said England would beat Portugal in the round of 16, and then they'd go out to Spain. I was kind of right. They did beat a third place team from Group F, and that in Germany, but then they beat Ukraine, then they beat Denmark really well, and yeah, Italy just too much, like you said. But yeah, how do you feel about England after this?
This is a great result for England, and people might not look at it the same way I do. I think it's a great result because you look at the progress. Southgate came in, got them to a fourth place in the World Cup. Got them to a second place in the Euros. The trajectory is there, and England have firepower in their back pocket right now. I mean, you look at players like Mason Greenwood, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, even people like Eberechi Eze, Fikayo Tomori. These are great players who are reaching their peak, and they're not even in the squad. So, the talent at your disposal has just gotten, bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think Southgate has licked his wounds, but he should enjoy what he's tactically managed to achieve. I mean, Alex and I both, talked drearily about, the back three with Phillips and Rice and how it becomes a back seven. And then Kieran Trippier. But,
Trippier.
I eat my humble pie. It worked. Phillips and Rice were, too dominant for anybody to cut through. I'd even argue Italy's midfield didn't even cut through them. I mean, Jorginho was playing a very, very risky game. Verratti was not winning the man-to-man duels. And, in the end, it came down to penalties. And they got the...
And in fairness,
and with a world-class save of Jordan Pickford in that moment. I mean, their goal didn't come off some great Machiavellian ploy by Mancini. Mancini was out of ideas for this game. I think that's very important to enforce. It's just that the team mentality was there for so long. Like, extra time, it could have been anyone's game. Both of them pretty much clocked out by the second half of extra time. Both of them were going to take it to penalties. But yeah, that's I think England have a lot to be happy about. Of course, the negative fallout from the tournament will hit hard for a bit. It'll cause a lot of introspection. But, Southgate is the man in front of everyone. He's not hiding behind anything. He was the first to raise his hand up and say, this is on me. The players have done a great job. And he deserves an enormous amount of respect for that. And he deserves to be the manager leading them into the next tournament. And it's not far away. It's 16 months away.
Yeah.
That's not a long time at all. But Alex had mentioned in the middle another team which was Spain, and I'll raise my hand up here. I called Spain to flop. Even after the first game, I said, I was right. There was so much uncertainty. There was a COVID outbreak that happened before this toothless attack. And after that first two results, which I believe were a draw and a loss, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. It was 2 draws, and they were absolutely listless. Morata could not hit a barn door with a bowling ball. And it just changed. It worked. Enrique got it right. These are young players he's playing with. Ferran Torres, Sarabia, Dani Olmo. You're trusting people in these big positions, in these big games. And it paid off. I mean, Pedri, rightfully the best young player of the tournament. Sergio Busquets, is a renaissance man. Is like back to playing like he was in 2012. It was fantastic to see. And, Morata got his licks in. He was the top goal scorer for the team, and he saved them. He saved them in the round of 16 game. And, he missed his penalty against Italy, but, they got him to the semi-finals. It was good build-up, good end product. Enrique is a man who's been through no shortage of emotional turmoil. We alluded to this before in our previous pods, but I think Spain need to find an extra gear. I don't see this current team, making it past a team like Brazil or Argentina, come the World Cup, come the highest stakes.
I disagree. I think you're right on the current form, but what was interesting about Spain was that back line had virtually no time together. Right,
exactly.
Like Laporte's literally just come in, and you. I got to think, in 16 months' time, how good is Pedri going to be? How good is Ferran Torres going to be? These players, well, especially Pedri, my goodness. I'll be fully open. I don't think I acknowledged him going into the tournament.
It's a bit Phil Foden-esque.
Mesmerising. Yeah, I think he's. I don't know. Maybe it's harsh. I am someone who thinks Phil Foden's a little overrated by the hyperactive English press. I do like him, but Pedri was beautiful the whole tournament. So I beg to differ. I think Spain with a bit more game time, a bit more cohesion, they could beat a Brazil or Argentina. You know, and I think what I've realised is for these for these tournaments, they do start slow. In 2012 and 2008, I think they started quite slowly as well. Right, in 2010, I think 2010 they lost their first game of the tournament. So maybe it's just a preparation thing or something like that. I mean, probably should be counteracted because you weren't wrong to say in the first couple of games they did not look good. I remember the one against Poland. They were just they couldn't. They couldn't. What the issue was? They just couldn't break into the box. Poland was just forcing them to cross.
I mean, come on.
It was so painful. Poland, I liked Poland's defence, but then they really turned it up. I mean, Pedri, I haven't got the stats in front of me, but I believe he did get the most passes into the penalty box, most passes into the final third. He was top for nearly every metric. Yeah, so Spain, I rate Enrique after this. I would like to go into Belgium now because I called pretty much the entire pre-tournament. This is another one I think I got right. I've remained unconvinced by Roberto Martinez.
Yeah, you made no secret of that.
He failed to convince, and so did Belgium. Well, yeah, it's just because the defence was so appalling, and it's just insistent to bring up people like Nasser Chadli.
There were just no ideas. I mean, Boyata wasn't that bad. You could have stuck with him in a back three instead of like playing Vermaelen, who had one good game in their back three, but it just didn't work. And I looked at Romelu Lukaku, that talisman. He was tired by the end of the tournament. He was gone. He was gassed. There really wasn't much to support him. And, I believe at points like the wings of Eden Hazard really lifted Belgium and Martinez's reputation, to that third place World Cup finish. And he didn't have that. Luckily another Hazard stepped up in a big way. But there is definitely a recruitment drive that needs to go on in Belgium, and I don't think Martinez is the man who should be at the helm for that.
Oh wait, I was about to say, did you sack him? Because I actually asked. I got a reply from a very respected writer on Twitter called Grace Robertson, a very good football journalist, and she said, "Look, I asked her, what do you think of Martinez?" She said, "I think he's fine," but if Martinez had got England to a semi-final or quarter-final, like in the same way Southgate did, I wouldn't be annoyed by him as much because England's expectations, the same with Southgate. England going post 2016 was, we are average, and Southgate has made England believe they are not average. Whereas Belgium, Belgium brought Roberto Martinez in to make the most of this golden generation, and he's not done that. Not in any way. Yes, of course they got to the semi-final, but I think these Euros really kind of proved it, as you kind of said. Hazard wasn't as good, but you still had De Bruyne, you still had Doku, you still had Lukaku. I think what really summarises it was the last 10 minutes against Spain, where they against Italy, where they needed to get a goal. But all they did was just lump it up to Lukaku and lose the ball.
And Lukaku's a build-up striker. He's not a target man. I get he's big and strong. He's not a target man.
Yeah, especially against Bonucci and Chiellini. So to me, it was a bit silly to... It just came across as if they didn't really know what they were doing, and they had a lot of time to actually get a goal, and they didn't threaten Italy at all. So I'm with you. I think Martinez needs to go. On the subject... is there any other managers you think, people left field questions, is there any other managers you think should lose their job after this tournament? I mean, Turkey, Sino Gunes is
we'll get to Deschamps. I have a tasty bit of pie for that. But Fernand Santos, I mean, this was listless Portugal. I mean, yes, Bruno Fernandes didn't have the best games, but he took so much of flack, whereas Bernardo Silva and Jota didn't have an iota of creativity amongst them. And I guess, and I'll say this, in Portugal's defense, João Felix was injured and João Cancelo had COVID. And those two, especially on the right-hand side, were a gigantic miss for Portugal. I know when they made it to when they won the UEFA Nations League, these two players were in the thick of that. They were really in the thick of that. And I can feel bad for them because Ronaldo didn't have the likes of Quaresma and Nani, supporting him. He had to rely on different people. And, there can be an argument that this team might be better without Ronaldo. But the fact that he scored their goals, he kept the tempo going up, he showed the aggression that the other players didn't have, means that there is still a place for him. And I fully see him playing the next World Cup. But I think they need a different manager. I think they need a manager with a bit more intensity, who has a bit more creativity, and just gives the team a few more options. I think Fernando Santos he's done incredibly well. He's got them the trophy, but I think it's time he just bows out with his head held high.
Yeah, I guess I think with these managers, especially international, there's like a spectrum of attacking and defensive, and I think Roberto Martinez is a very attacking one, but he didn't really put a lot of work in defence. And I think that I think Southgate leans defensively, but I don't think as much as maybe he does as much as people think. And Fernando Santos, he is the end of the defensive scale. I think that is completely fair to say. And they've got so much talent in that squad. Maybe you're right. I'll be honest, I didn't actually get to watch Portugal at times because I was always watching the other game, but Portugal.
They were Portugal.
We said pre-tournament. Early on we had them as our favourites to get to the final and play France.
And the repeat last
for
time.
A few months.
But none of the four semi-finalists from the last Euros made it to the semi-finals of this Euros, and that was crazy.
Damn, that's crazy.
And going on to like other crazies is Every 7 years, this happens to France. And this is coming on to Deschamps. They cannot survive for that long. I mean, I remember seeing the France team that won the World Cup, even the France team that went to the finals of the Euros. I was like, you know what? France have a supply line that's going to enable them to dominate like Spain did, like win 3 tournaments with ease. But I think Deschamps, and you mentioned this point, is that Deschamps is a boring manager. And I think he heard you and took that to heart and said, you know what, I'm bringing Karim Benzema back. But when you hear France and Fallout and Deschamps, the first thought to anybody who was not initiated in the tournament would have said, oh man, Benzema came back. Benzema, upended the scales. But Benzema's probably the best performer they had alongside Pogba. And that team just capitulated. I mean, the finals performance against Switzerland was, they had amazing goals, but just the team spirit was just pitiful. I mean, on one hand, when they were, at the huddle for the penalty shootouts, you had Paul Pogba making, this half-hearted speech. You had Lloris saying a few things. You had Deschamps, saying, I have faith in you. And on the other side, you have bleach blonde Coke bottle in hand, Granit Xhaka, delivering a sermon, taking these Swiss to war. I mean, you could see that difference. You could see the intensity, and there was so much lethargy.
Well, I think with France was more that as well that like you're saying, the off the field issues really took over. Like the Reflect reported as well that throughout the tournament, especially when they lost to Switzerland, the parents of the players were in the stands going at each other and arguing.
Hearing her name, but I guess we're not.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Adrien Rabiot's mother and agent, who is very, very close with him. There is a bit of backstory. She actually lost. Rabiot's dad left at an early age, and it meant that she had to raise Rabiot and the other children on her own. Yeah, she's gone to war for him, but it means that any criticism against Rabiot, she takes quite, harshly, and she was warring with Kylian Mbappe's parents because he missed a penalty, and with Pogba's mother as well. It's just so crazy, and it like you said, it's typical France.
But
it's so typical,
I don't see.
Like even in the Switzerland game, even the Switzerland game, didn't they as well? Deschamps, he went for the back five.
I mean, he didn't
went for the
have
back
he didn't
three,
have
just back
left
five.
backs.
And
Luca Digne and Lucas Hernandez were both injured, so I mean, he could have rolled the dice and played Jules Koundé at right, had a back three and have like a winger or a defensive wide man playing left wing back, but then he chose Rabiot, and that's on him. And I don't think.
or he could have played
I mean,
Kimpembe.
Kimpembe, Varane, and
left back, or
Kante
anything like
just
that.
lost the plot in that second half. I mean, Kante just out of sorts. I have never seen him so swallowed up by the occasion. I mean, they were leading. They were up by 2 goals. I mean, how did France capitulate from 3-1 and get knocked out in penalties just an hour within each other? It's unconscionable. And I think Deschamps should take a fair bit of flack, but I'll say this in his defense. I don't think France should change their manager. There's 16 months left. Let Deschamps be with this team. I think he'll lick his wounds and say, this losing out both of his left backs is an unconscionable storm of factors that could harm your team. But they did play well. I thought even though they drew to Hungary, like they did have good passages of play. I was sad to see that Benzema's Deschamps' insistence on playing Benzema sort of relegated Griezmann to, a bit of a side piece. Whereas in the World Cup, like Giroud and Griezmann were on fire. And as much as Mbappe, tried to act like a diva, with Giroud, I think the end result is that Griezmann, Giroud, and Mbappe are a better trio than Benzema, Mbappe, and Griezmann. Even though individually Benzema has a lot more talent than Olivier Giroud, I think the ability to string those two together was what won France the World Cup. I mean, he didn't score a single goal, but Olivier Giroud was vital to that attack. He was the balance.
I think with time though, I think you're right. But with time, again, a bit like Spain, I think with time those guys can blend, but. Question I want to lay to you is, I agree. I think Deschamps deserves to keep his job at least the next 16 months. But if Zidane comes in and says, "I have a club offer on the line I want to take. However, if you were to offer me the job now, I'll take it." Does the French national team give him the job?
And I'll tell. See,
should
it's a hard one because Zidane's not going to have a club once the season starts. I think it's too late. I think there's like less than a month before all the major leagues start their games. And if Zidane wanted a job, he would have gotten it. There were rumors that he'd go to Juve, but Juve, I think, made the smart decision and brought back Max Allegri. There were rumors he'd go to Inter, but Inter made the smart decision and gone with Pippo Inzaghi. United are sticking with Solskjaer. City, Chelsea aren't going to change. I doubt he'll go to a Spurs or an Arsenal. PSG are changing. Klopp's not going anywhere. So I think Zidane took the gamble with, this France team doing badly. I'll get called in. But I don't think the French and I think this is a problem that lies with. I mean, it's not with you or me, or I think it's with the general population of football fans. Is sometimes conclusions that people come to, as popular they may be, are just based on not much solid ground. The French Football Federation still trusts Deschamps. He's gotten them to 2 finals. He's won one of them. And despite going out in this manner to the Euros, it's a blip. I still think Deschamps is the person. He built this young team. Like, he put his faith behind all of these people. And it's showing. Like, the people who weren't performing for their clubs didn't get selected. Umtiti didn't get selected. Giroud was a second choice striker. He made these hard decisions. He put in Rabiot after a good performance at Juve, in the absence of Matuidi because, well, Matuidi is too old. I think they'll give him till Qatar. Whether or not Zinedine Zidane makes up his mind to go to another club, we'll wait and see. I don't count out Real Madrid part 3 for him.
Before we get on to our last... Well, we've got 2 Group F teams as well I want to talk through. And before we get on to the big one, I want to talk through Hungary, because one thing I think we did get right is, especially you spoke a lot about Adam Szalai. We said, look, Hungary will not be a pushover in Group F, whereas many people predict to finish in bottom. Of course it did.
They could have been second. They could have been second.
I mean, they gave Germany and France... They really could have. They gave Germany such a good run.
They drew France. They drew France.
So, I mean,
oh, man.
Yeah, it was just... I think we really smashed it with Hungary as a side note. But Germany, you've got a bit written here. Now, Joachim Low is gone. He will not be in charge anymore. Was it a wet fart of an ending?
I think I called it pretty clearly over Low's, lack of a right back, and I think that played in a lot. I mean, Kimmich was not able to be the player he was, and for all intents and purposes, Kimmich last season was probably the best midfielder in all of Europe. And then you're getting him to play at right back. You're getting, Gundogan and Kroos to do defensive duties that they're not supposed to do. They got pressed out. Gosens had a good 2 games, but then he got gassed out and he got found out. And, as much as people would like to say, oh, the game was so close, any team could have won it, England deserved to win that game, and they outplayed Germany when it mattered. And, losing to... England, and you're England's bogey team for God knows how many decades. And then, losing that is a big, bitter pill to swallow. I mean, England beating Germany was a mental block of a game.
Yeah.
I don't care if Germany were not, were not the Germany of old or they were weak. England still beat a Germany team. I mean, this is England who've gone knocked out to like Iceland and Trinidad and Tobago and God knows who else. And Romania, yeah. This is like...
And Romania,
they beat what's in front of them, and Germany was in front of them, and Germany should have beaten them, and they didn't.
It's an interesting point you raise, though, because I think we like to, especially for some, I like to step back and really look at things as a whole. But I wonder if Germany fans will remember Joachim Low as the guy who ended the England curse. Like, as the man who ended Germany's dominance over England. I guess... The 5-1 in 2000 or 2001, maybe that interrupts it, but certainly in tournaments. Well, I think this is the first time England have beaten Germany in a tournament since 1966. Like, it's crazy. So maybe Lowe will go down in the history books for the wrong reason on that. But hopefully his legacy rings true. Are you at high hopes for Hansi Flick? I think he'll do good there. Because I think at Bayern, he failed after he had too much time at the team. But
didn't fail at Bayern. More is that he didn't want to deal with the politics. And you know what? Fair play to him. Absolutely fair play to Flick to make that decision. I mean, it was writings on the wall that he will take over from Lowe. Lowe wasn't going to make it beyond this tournament. Even if Germany had won the Euros by whatever miracle, Lowe would have still gone. Because he announced it before, but he would have gone anyway. But the one thing, before getting on to Flick, I'll say this. There is a lot of love for Joachim Löw in Germany. Fans worldwide would say, oh, why do you have any love for him? He's been playing so shit for a while. It's like he still brought the World Cup. He was still at the helm of, a crucial change in thinking from 2006 to winning the World Cup in 2010. He is still responsible for that, and he's still beloved in the German media for that. And, going out this way was hard. I mean, you look at people like Manuel Neuer, Toni Kroos, Mats Hummels, even Thomas Müller. I mean, he trusted Müller. He trusted Müller as a 21-year-old to, be the main attacking threat. I mean, regardless of how he took him out at the end, I mean, Löw's still someone who's loved by Germany, and I wish he'd gotten a better send-off, but, honestly, that was... As someone who's followed England through many heartbreaks, I was glad to see England, be the ones to defeat Germany. But on the point to Hansi Flick, I think he has a problem that's going to be similar to, the man who took over his job, Julian Nagelsmann, taking over 2 young sides and deciding how much you're going to lay into the youth. Because let's be honest, Leroy Sané and Serge Gnabry did not have a good tournament. They were bad, and I didn't expect it, and I didn't see it coming. And he's going to have those decisions to make. Whereas you see there is quality around. There's quality in people like Robin Gosens. There is quality in people like Rudiger. There is quality in in Kai Havertz, even Timo Werner. They did what they were supposed to do, and Werner did what he does at Chelsea: create space and run behind centre backs and just have one other player come in to sweep it up. But he's going to have those tough decisions to make, and it's going to be interesting to see if he does that. I hope to God he brings in someone like Riedel Baku into the fold. I don't want to see Joshua Kimmich playing in the right-sided defense anymore. I don't want to see him in the back line. I want to see him, as a CDM. And Tony Kroos is now gone. Tony Kroos, at the age of 32, 33, is retired. Yeah, he's retired from the German national team. Big shoes to fill. Everyone says, we still have Ilkay Gundogan. It's like, you probably have him for like a season and a half more at best.
Do you know what though? I think what bodes well is that the man that Hansi Flick's the same guy who brought Jamal Musiala into the Bayern for and used him really well in the Bundesliga last year at a really young age. So maybe he could be the man to help him, give him a boost in the national team. Should we go to the? We're getting close to the end, I think. But let's go to Germany's arch rivals now, historic arch rivals, the Netherlands. The Netherlands. Now, obviously, it felt like they were the team to miss. So, let's give a bit of a recap. They won their first game 3-2 against Ukraine, and they beat the North Macedonia and Austria. Reverse order. Then they got to the round of 16 with lots of hopes played on them, and then they got outplayed by the Czech Republic and lost 2-0 after a sending off. But even before the sending off, they were the worst team. Frank de Boer lost his job, and now Louis van Gaal looks likely to take over. But still, I don't want Van Gaal in charge. I've been closely following. The Dutch media and the names that were put up, Ritwik, my goodness, it was, aside from Louis van Gaal, it was Giovanni van Bronckhorst, and it was Erik ten Hag, and Erik ten Hag came away and said absolutely not.
But
so
he's got a safe.
I know he would have been great, but Ten Hag came out and said, I don't want. Yeah, he said he doesn't want it. So it's interesting to think that just the Netherlands aren't in a good place generally, managerially and goalkeeping. Do you know what's funny? Stecklenburg started the World Cup final in 2010, and he started all the games.
It was mad. It's because Jasper Cillessen had COVID. So we'll put that out there. True,
but what who would you like to see take over? You're backing Louis van Gaal?
When Frank de Boer was announced as Ronald Koeman's replacement, he's not the man I wanted. I wanted Netherlands to go so far off left field that it'd bring in Arsene Wenger, and as much of a pipe dream as I was. But you look at the options. Van Gaal still knows how to coach a Dutch team. He still knows how to coach a Dutch team. I don't care how long he's been out. He still knows how to coach a Dutch team. He was the man who brought in those young players. He is the man who blended in experience and, youthful exuberance. And I still believe he can do that again. It'll be a temporary appointment. I'll say that much. It'll be a temporary appointment. And the Netherlands got really hard done because they were building something good under Koeman. They really, really were. If Koeman had said no to Barcelona and Van Dijk didn't get injured, we'd be seeing a very, very...
Netherlands could have got into the semi-finals.
Their route was so easy.
Their route was so easy.
But, let's give credit due to, the Czech Republic where it's deserved. They had a fantastic tournament. They played much better than anybody had hoped for. And, they made it all the way to the semi-finals. that's... massive. No, they didn't. They made it to the quarterfinals. I was confusing them with Denmark. They took Denmark to the sword as well. But, it's after the... What a tournament.
Patrick Schick, what tournament.
5 goals, joint high scorer. Soufal and Souček doing what they did over the last season. But yeah, who could have seen that coming?
On the last topic, Soufal, I saw a tweet recently that said Soufal's top 10 right backs in Europe. On current form.
At all.
I wouldn't disagree
with
it, would you?
Flown under the radar. I would have had him for, right back of the Premier League team of the season last season. Because as a right man. Yeah.
I think that's only because Cancelo played at left back, to be fair.
Surprise.
But I'd put Cancelo above him. I'd put, don't know, is Cancelo Hakimi if he counts. Then it's actually really hard to. Maybe would you put Wan-Bissaka over him? I think Soufal offers a lot attacking wise. I think he completed. At
The
one
well
point,
is run dry on
for the
my
quarterfinals.
the
I
well
think
is
he was
run
the-
dry on my defense of Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Go on.
He's just a different right back. He's not a complete right back. He does the job that's told of him, and hopefully he'll get better. But he wasn't in the tournament, so we'll keep our things about him to a minimum. Alex, is there a final hot take prediction we got wrong that you want to end? Who you want to end on here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll just throw a couple out as well. I also said that Wales would be awful, and they were great. And the team in their group that was not great was Turkey. And I convinced you of the hype. But I think everyone was. It was so... Besides England, this is the one that makes no sense. Like, with England, I thought they would be really bad, and they were so good. And to the point where you just have to accept the humble pie, like you said, and say, Southgate, you got it right. With Turkey, I had to set the humble pie and just say, I got it wrong. Because maybe it was just... It should have seen the more warning signs in the draws against Latvia and things. I did say the defence would be bad, but what was the worst thing was their
so
attack.
Bad.
Like, poor Yilmaz. Yilmaz was targeted with the means, but he didn't get any chances to do anything. Like and Çalhanoğlu, I saw something earlier that was I think it was on FTBL Football Instagram account that said that the Çalhanoğlu was Turkey's player of the tournament. So no, it wasn't. It's probably Ergeden Kadir in goal, the goalkeeper. He's the only one who I thought did well.
Dreadful. They were the only
Turkey
team in the
just,
tournament, along with North Macedonia, who lost all 3 of their games, I believe.
Yeah, I think they were. I actually think they were the worst team, full stop, which is crazy. Like, even people said they flopped. No one saw that. That was mental. They didn't even score a goal. It
was a great
goal. I don't think they scored a goal.
This guy with his left foot.
Didn't even.
I think it was in the last group game. Can't even remember who it was. That's how.
Maybe. Oh, actually, that was player of the tournament. Cengiz Ünder. He was the only one who did anything. I'm not sure if he scored it, but he was the only one. He's come away from that Turkey team held high. But do you know what we're saying? Do you know what it makes me think as well with Turkey? Because we have got a World Cup podcast that will come out later this year. But this will be the last time you hear me and Ritwik on a podcast for a bit. Do you know what I've learned from Eurowatch? It is to completely and utterly ignore pre-tournament games, because if Turkey is an example of anything, it shows that it can.
When the floodlights are on and the pressure's sticked up,
I don't know if you feel the same.
You can make mountains out of molehills, or you can make a dragon out of an ant. It's either one or the other.
That's one way of saying it. But yeah. So that's everything from Eurowatch. What a time. And we'll see you very soon. We hope you enjoyed this series. Please feel free to tweet me or Ritwik at RitwikJasakar. Things you enjoyed.
Yeah, tell us what you'd want to hear, because Alex and I will be coming back in a not so distant future, and we'd love to give you the kind of content you want. It'll be bigger, it'll be bolder, there'll be more voices, and we'll continue to bring you the thorough scoop on all the teams involved.
Absolutely. Right. Well, I have been Euro expert,
and I've been Ritwik Sarkar.
And we'll see you
soon.
soon.